Good evening. 1 week after India announced the scrapping of special status for Jammu and Kashmir and the state was bifurcated into two union territories, Pakistan has practically admitted that it has lost the plot in Kashmir. Their Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi had a message for Pakistanis. Don't live in a fool's paradise because no one is standing with a garland of flowers to welcome Pakistan at the United Nations. Now, this comes after Pakistan's attempt to raise the issue at the UNSC was shut down by Poland, which currently holds the rotating presidency of the Security Council. Poland made it clear that both New Delhi and Islamabad should find a solution bilaterally. So tonight on Faceoff, we're asking, and this is the debate that we're going to be getting into in a moment, what has made Pakistan change its tune in Kashmir? What explains Shah Mahmood Qureshi's rather terse assessment of what Pakistan's very limited options are? After Pakistan's admission, Army Chief Bipin Rawat has now issued a clear warning to our western neighbour not to resort to its dirty old tricks once again.
एक अरब की मार्केट है, बहुत से लोगों ने वहां इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कर रखी हैं। वैसे तो हम उम्मा और इस्लाम की बात तो करते हैं, कोई उम्मा के मुहाफ़िज़ों ने बहुत सी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कर रखी है वहां, उनके मफादात हैं वहां। सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल में जो P5 मेंबर्स हैं, उनमें से कोई भी रुकावट बन सकता है। क्या आपको कोई शक है? नहीं होना चाहिए। Do not live in a fool's paradise. Let the people of Pakistan be aware.
If the adversary wants to activate the LOC, the choice is his. Everybody does precautionary deployments and movement of precautionary resources. Everybody does it. We should not get too concerned about this. As far as the army is concerned and the services are concerned, you have to always be prepared. So the assessment is, should anything go wrong, we are prepared.
All right, so where is this coming from, this assessment that Pakistanis should not be living in a fool's paradise if they think that the international community, the UN, is waiting to listen to their tune on Kashmir? Joining us on our talking point, Samit Patra is spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Jaydev Ranade is a former RAW officer. He's the president of the Centre for China Analysis and Strategy. Kamar Chima, strategic and political analyst, joining us from Islamabad. And Aina Tangin is a political affairs commentator. He's joining us from Beijing. Samit, I'll start with you. The foreign minister of Pakistan, after having ratcheted up the rhetoric, saying Kashmir is dying, Kashmiris are dying, and India is on a genocide there in Kashmir, very tersely and very openly admits that Pakistanis should not be living in a fool's paradise because no one at the UN is waiting to listen to Pakistan's tune. And that was borne out by what Poland did, telling very candidly to Pakistan, go and settle this bilaterally. This has nothing to do with the United Nations.
I mean, this classically is a rant and collapse, I would say, way of response by Pakistan. I mean, rant in the sense that initially when Article 370 was abrogated, initially when surgical strike was brought into fore, when we discussed about air strike, the first reaction of Pakistan was go into a hyperbole of rantings, that Pakistan is a nuclear state, Pakistan is not to be underestimated, Pakistan is not going to spare anyone, Pakistan is going to involve the global arena, what not and what all. And then finally, when these rantings find no takers, ultimately collapse. And what we have heard from Mr. Qureshi yesterday and what we heard in many of the news channels of Pakistan is the collapse that we are seeing finally. Pakistan has to realize one thing, what Mr. Amit Shah, the Home Minister of India, said on the floor of Parliament. He reminded us of the Operation Tupac started by General Zia-ul-Haq, the President of Pakistan then in 1988. Since the document of Operation Tupac categorically mentions that Pakistan would not be able to engage in direct war with India, let's bleed India by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. And the best way of bleeding India by 1,000 cuts is by utilizing the misadventures of Article 370. Let's divide the architecture of Jammu Kashmir. Let's export terrorism to Jammu Kashmir and then let's succeed by bleeding India. So all these years, that's what Pakistan was doing. The world knew it because today wherever there is terrorism, the footprints ultimately leads to Pakistan.
Ultimately goes back to Pakistan.
The world is not going to mess up the whole
You know,
thing.
Kamar Chima, the problem is also that Pakistan, and perhaps Mr. Qureshi realizes this, that Pakistan is stuck between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, I don't think there is international Kashmir like the way it used to be in the 1990s, certainly. There isn't as much appetite for Kashmir today. And secondly, and this is the more important reason, Mr. Qureshi realizes the Damocles sword that is hanging over your head. It's called FATF action in October. The Financial Action Task Force could potentially blacklist Pakistan. And Mr. Qureshi is aware of this. That's why he's saying, let's not live in a fool's paradise. Question is, are you and other Pakistanis aware of this?
Well, Zakka, I think we will keep exposing the undemocratic, non-secular and legislative authoritarianism of BJP, and I think this is what we can do. We have limits of exploring our diplomatic and political and legal avenues, and every issue of India may be doing undemocratic things in Indian occupied Kashmir, but definitely we have certain limitations, and I think Foreign Minister Qureshi actually spoke what is reality. So, but we can keep keep on harping the key.
You accept the reality.
Keep on exposing you, and we will keep on engaging international
that Pakistan
media
is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Indian occupied Kashmir and expose
Chima Saab, just a follow up. You accept that this is the reality of Pakistan today. It's caught between a rock and a hard place. It cannot, whip up the propaganda machine internationally against India, nor can you wish away FATF blacklisting. So this is the reality. This is the catch-22 you are stuck in.
FATF has nothing to do with what is happening in IOK. IOK is purely a constitutional problem. This is an agreement which have broken Pakistan and
all right, we'll try and fix that line in just 1 second of Kamal Shimas. It's just breaking, I'm afraid. But let me go to Jaidev Ranade and then to Ainar Tangen. There used to be a time, Jaidev Ranade, certainly in the 90s, and you remember this, when the Kargil war happened, Nawaz Sharif went crying to Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton sort of weighed in, or at least tried to weigh in, to reduce tensions at that time. There was a time when the world was interested in the Kashmir dispute, was interested in the internationalization of Kashmir. That's not quite the case anymore. And like I said, perhaps Mr. Qureshi realizes that potential FATF blacklisting is a very real threat that Pakistan is facing. And until October, certainly, when that FATF hearing comes up, they can't be seen as doing any hanky-panky in Kashmir.
I quite agree with you, but the point that you made about till October, I think that's important, because the way Qureshi has spoken and said that Pakistan has no friends virtually, and it really can't take up the issue of Kashmir in the UN is a very candid admission. But let me remind you that there have been videos of sittings in the Pakistan Parliament where again he has been heckled, rather the Prime Minister has been heckled, and they have said, you've got to look at the kind of policies that we are following. So I think that is a sentiment that exists in Pakistan. But I would not underestimate their potential for causing mischief. And I think they will wait out till October. They'll probably try and do something below the radar. And to that extent, our army chief's warning to the people in Kashmir or the soldiers in Kashmir, the forces in Kashmir, to be vigilant, I think is very apt, because there have been reports of them massing troops. I understand there was also an American intelligence report which warned us that the Pakistanis or the terrorists there are plotting something. So these are genuine concerns, and I think it is after October that we will probably see them doing something more blatant.
Of course.
But I would not underestimate what Pakistan is up to. But on the diplomatic front, I think the message is very clear that we've got the major powers accepting what we have done, agreeing to what we have said, and including Middle Eastern countries, Muslim countries which have normally backed Pakistan, have asked it to cool down and to accept the situation.
The only country which seems to have bought into the Pakistani narrative is China. And I want to go to Ainar Tangen and ask him, the United States is saying that this is an internal matter of India. The Russians have completely backed India on the decision to abrogate Article 370. The other P5 countries, except China, have all completely agreed that this is India's internal affair and India's internal business. China is going out on a limb, first saying that you should not unilaterally change the status quo. Then yesterday's statement, which was attributed to Wang Yi, seemed to suggest that China has sovereignty concerns here as well, when Article 370 has nothing to do with change of sovereignty or interference in each other's sovereignty. And in any case, India doesn't tell China what it does in Xinjiang or what it does in Tibet. So if India is doing this in Kashmir, it's entirely India's problem. Why should China turn around and say, don't change the status quo unilaterally? It has nothing to do with China.
Well, I think China was extremely confused and surprised that Modi's first initiative was nationalistic control of Kashmir as opposed to economic issues. The understanding here was that Modi would, with his newfound majority and stronger status, would have taken a more proactive role in a lot of the promises he's made. I mean, obviously, unemployment and other things are there. In terms of accepting this, China is concerned about destabilization. If Pakistan attacks India, India will attack back. This does not lead to a peaceful situation. Obviously, there are concerns about what happened there. I don't know that India is completely... I participated in a number of debates where there were quite a few suggestions about what China should be doing in Tibet. But the issue for China is there going to be some sort of flowback in terms of the line of actual control? What happens if more troops are being stationed there? Is this going to be an issue? Obviously, in terms of what was traditionally this area, China has about 1/6, Pakistan 1/3, and India 1/2. Under those circumstances, it's very important to understand how this new regime is coming in. As I said, from China's perspective, they were taken by surprise.
No, one second. My limited point, I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but my limited point, Einar, is I don't think this is the biggest issue facing Asia right now. The biggest news story coming out of Asia right now is what's happening in Hong Kong. For months now, in fact, for over a year now, Hong Kong has been seeing these protests, and over the last few days, there's been a complete siege. It is one of the 10 busiest airports in the world, and it's been completely laid under siege. And I haven't seen, Einar, a statement from India telling China what it should do or what it should not do in Hong Kong. So why shouldn't India expect the same thing from China? Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. It's up to India to decide whether they want to keep an article of the Constitution or whether they want to abrogate it. Much like it is entirely China's business what you do in Hong Kong.
Well, you can certainly express that point. My issue is that people were surprised that this will not lead to a more stable Asian environment. This is the concern. There's also concerns, as I said, about the line of actual control. China has not said that Kashmir is, Indian-controlled Kashmir is not an internal matter of India. They simply said that it expressed their deep concern about the stability of the area and the other issues that I brought up, that this is not addressing the economic issues that are out there. You can certainly point to other issues all around the world, Brexit, you name it, things, but I don't think that necessarily changes the surprise that not only China, but the international community.
The big concern for India, and some would even argue that, and I've seen articles on the internet after the abrogation of 370, that somehow the Trump comments that he made with Imran Khan sort of hastened this process. But Samit Patra, be that as it may, now we've heard from the Indian ambassador to the US as well as other Indian ambassadors around the world that Trump has seemingly backtracked on his offer to mediate or his offer to intervene in the Kashmir dispute. But with Trump, you never know. We know the Prime Minister is going to the G7 in Paris later this month. He'll be meeting Trump again next month in September at the UNGA. What if Trump were to turn around and say that India is changing the status quo unilaterally, or drag in this to equivocate with this with trade issues, which he's always had a problem with, and we know that.
See, Zakka, as far as Mr. Trump and America is concerned, there's already a statement out, and the statement reads that it's a bilateral issue, so America will not be interfering in this matter. So once the statement is out, I don't think Mr. Trump is going to amend the statement in a later date. But anyways, let me amend the whole discussion over here by calling out that it was not, I mean, as far as Article 370's defanging or abrogation was concerned, it had nothing to do with the statement of Mr. Trump. You are obvious with the fact that something as important as abrogation of Article 370, the preparations must have been going on since months altogether. So I don't think it has anything to do with the statement of Mr. Trump. But coming to the relation with China, coming to what other countries would say, the best part is, I mean, today India is standing in a different pedestal altogether. We have acceptance by most of the countries in many of the issues. We have seen the surgical strikes, we have seen the airstrike, we have seen the Article 370 as well. UAE supports us, Saudi Arabia supports us. People were arrested in Bahrain as recently as day before yesterday for some kind of demonstration against India. So look at what the countries are, they are even cracking at the protesters. As far as China is concerned, I believe the single line statement by our External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, saying that this does not change, abrogation of Article 370 in no way affects the border. It does not alter the border in any way. So it has nothing to do with sovereignty of China or any other nation. It's an internal issue of India, and of course India will resolve its internal issue in a way it deems fit.
Kamar Chima, look at the sign of how far things have come diplomatically for Pakistan. The Organization of Islamic Countries, OIC, used to be one of your biggest backers when it comes to Kashmir or any other issue that was a pet peeve for Pakistan. Today, the two biggest countries in OIC, Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, have both come out and said that this is India's internal affair. I mean, you've clearly lost leverage. You've clearly lost voice, even amongst, lobby groups that are supposedly sympathetic to you.
Well, Zakka, forget, the Kashmir. What Arab countries have done, Arab countries, OIC and the Arab League has done with the Palestinian cause. They have damaged the Palestinian cause themselves. Forget Kashmir. So I think we should not look up to OIC or the Arab League or the Arab world. What is important, we have to fight this battle ourselves. And I think we are thankful to Prime Minister Modi. He has internationalized the Kashmir issue once again, and he has given a new life to Kashmir issue. What is important, you just lift up the curfew, the world will forget Hong Kong.
Mr. Chima, can I ask you one small question? Other than China, which is again, I wouldn't say fully endorsed your position, but whatever it is the only country that has seemingly endorsed your position. Other than China, can you name for me one country that has taken Pakistan's side on this issue? One country.
Well, I think here it's not about the country. It's about the legality. It's about moral values. It's about the issue. So so what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir, is that all legal? So what is happening in Kashmir, is that what you are doing as per constitution? Why there is a communication blackout? Why there is a curfew that is legal?
Why should you tell us, legality or constitutionality of a move?
You need to look deep into yourself.
One second. Mr. Chima, with due respect, the constitutionality or the legality of that decision will be decided by the Supreme Court of India, whether it is in keeping with the law of the land. I don't think we should take any lessons from you as to the constitutionality or the legality of this move. But Samit Patra, a quick word, and then I'm going to Jaydev Ranade.
I mean, I'm amused and astonished by the selection of word with the Pakistani guest, legality and moral high ground that he is trying to claim. Look at Pakistan. It has been exposed further. Imran Khan pointing out to the fact that terrorism may increase in Kashmir, saying that, well, Pulwama-like attacks may further happen in Kashmir. Have you ever heard a national head, a head of a nation, speaking this language of terrorism, language in support of terrorism? Never ever, what Mr. Imran Khan has done. And look at them taking a moral high ground. I mean, it was only Imran Khan a couple of weeks ago went to US and claimed that all the former government of Pakistan were lying to the world, were lying to the US, and in fact there were 40,000 terrorists holed up in Pakistan. 40 tanzeemein Pakistan mein thi. Is this moral high ground that you're talking about, sir?
I think that's a fair point. Jaydev Ranade, now I want to take the story forward. Like I said, Mr. Modi is going to meet world leaders at the G7 end of this month. You've got the UNGA coming up next month. the story that and the manner in which the path in which it's going to move forward over the next 1 month, let's say, how much would that depend on how soon things return to normal in Kashmir?
I'd like to make 2-3 quick points, Zakka, here. Firstly, I'd just like to go back to the conversation you had with Mr. Einar Tangvin. And I'd just like to say that China's statement was a very restrained statement. So it wasn't fulsome support for Pakistan. They had to support it. They did. They promised to support them in the UN to take up the matter, which is now dead. But that was the limit of the thing. But their concern was that by taking the action that Mr. Modi did, he has actually finished the issue by making it very clear that J&K is, as far as India is concerned, an integral part of India, and the portion of J&K that is with us right now is not subject to international discussion or outside interference. I think that is one major point. Secondly, the Chinese have been laying claim on J&K, as you are well aware, despite Chou En-lai having said in 1954 that they do not lay claim to J&K at all. But their maps have been showing Jammu and Kashmir is a disputed area in addition to others. And as you know, they stopped issuing visas from 2010. That was also the time when they began contacting the Hurriyat leaders and inviting them to China. None went, but that was so their meddling now has been put out of the picture, and I think this move has got them a bit concerned. Okay. They're now wondering how this is going to probably affect their border issue. But as you said about Mr. Modi meeting the G7 leaders, it's not a question of how soon, as you said, the matters will be resolved, or the pressure in or the presence of troops in Kashmir will be eased, but it is a question of how. I mean, how will it be handled? Will there be peace restored, and how calm the valley will be? And I think it will be the way they are progressing. So I don't see it really becoming a major issue. As I said, what they will be looking at are the human rights concerns when they will try and talk to Mr. Modi about it.
I'll get a final word from Einar Tangvin. And again, I go back to the question that I asked you. I don't think China cares particularly about the world's opinion or anyone's opinion about what the Chinese state does in Xinjiang or what it does in Tibet. If it's kosher for China, why shouldn't it be kosher for India?
Well, I think the previous speaker already addressed that. China has been very restrained. As I said, they were surprised that this was the first major move that Modi was making. Definitely more nationalistic than economic. Jingoism, using Pakistan as a punching bag, will not change the legality one way or the other. The issue is it will be resolved in your courts as to whether or not it's constitutional, whether the correct steps were taken to abrogate it. And that will be that. China, as was said, is only concerned about whether or not this is going to inflame the line of actual control. Remember, this is not one border issue. It is several border issues that are kind of conglomerated together. Okay. There have been proposals, but at this point, there has been no resolution.
Samit, final word, 30 seconds. I've got to wrap up.
Though I did not wanted to entangle myself in this debate with China, but astonishingly, when they call this as a jingoistic move, when they call this as a nationalistic move, I really am amazed. We have Hong Kong at one side, we have Xinjiang at the other side, we have Tibet at one side. We have never commented on any of these. We have never commented on any of these. And astonishingly, seeing as to what is happening to Muslims in Uyghur, Pakistan, ironically, has never commented. Recently, there was an interview where the interviewer asked Mr. Imran Khan, would you comment on what is happening in Uyghur Muslims? He said, I am not aware of what is happening to Uyghur Muslims. This astonishing relationship between China and Pakistan intrigues me.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up with that. And meanwhile, we're playing pictures of what's been happening in Hong Kong. It's straight. Yeah, that's right. It's almost like it's straight out of a movie. These scenes, and that too in one of the financial capitals, certainly in this part of the world, in Asia.